There's nothing wrong with the bigger project, by the way. You know, the bigger project, you can still stay with that and not need the roaster, so you've mitigated that, and you can do you could still implement a lot of what we're doing in the PEA to improve ESG, and you could stay at a bigger project. But we wanted to see if we could get a CAPEX that was more reasonable, and then an expansion through cash flow.
Well, hello, welcome to Assay TV. Today, I'm delighted to be joined once again by Joanne Freeze, who is the President and CEO of Candente Copper Corp. Candente are focused on their flagship project in Northern Peru, the Cañariaco Norte Copper Project. Joanne, great to see you today. We spoke a few months ago, back in July, I think it was. But just for our viewers who didn't catch that interview, just start things off with a quick, sort of, 1 minute snapshot on the company.
Okay, thanks very much, Leo. The Cagnariaco project has 3 actual targets, copper targets, and 2 of them have been drilled. The one that we have the big resource in already and advanced engineering studies is Cañariaco Norte. And there we have, if you add your measured, indicated, and inferred resource, it's 9 billion pounds of copper, 2 million ounces of gold, and 54 million ounces of silver. We've done studies from 2011 through 14, and now we're doing a new PEA, changing the infrastructure layout and some aspects of the planned operation.
Excellent. I mean, as you mentioned, when we last spoke, you just completed a sort of conceptual desktop study on the project, but then you've been moving it into sort of a more formalized PEA.
Right.
That PEA, when do you expect that to be released?
Early January. Yeah.
Early January.
We were hoping for in December sometime, but I think it'll have to be in January now. Yeah.
Okay, but that PEA, sort of following on from that desktop study, you're looking to improve the ESG of the project, yeah? What particular ways do you think you'll be able to do that?
Well, the first thing I wanted to look at, and we did in the desktop study, was mitigating the need for a roaster. We do have some arsenic in the deposit, but we don't have the levels of arsenic that a lot of copper mines and projects being developed now have. And in 2011, the engineers didn't take a really close look at the geometallurgy. So we just decided to use a roaster that Codelco was implementing. And then with time, we realized that probably we don't need it, but it was really built for something like 4% arsenic, and we are closer to 1, but actually in the concentrate, less than 0.5. In any case, that would be the first, great way to improve the ESG aspect. And it's not that it wasn't proven technology that was clean and everything, but it's just nobody wants to see a roaster if they don't have to. And then that actually lowers the OPEX, and just the whole operational, aspect becomes simpler. So that was number 1. Then number 2 was that everything was going into one big valley, which has a river, but not a big river at that point. And that was going to be diverted, no contact with water, everything like that. But now we're looking at moving the tailings and the waste out of that valley, and also having a different kind of facility. So in fact, rather than a solid waste in front of your tailings, which makes it very stable so that things you don't release anything into the environment, of course. Now it's actually going to be a combined dry stack, so less water involved, but also a combined waste and tailings. So it takes less space, and it really increases the stability of it.
Absolutely. And I believe you're looking at some sort of ways to improve, as you mentioned, the water usage there, but also power for the project. Where's the power going to come from?
Well, the power has always been grid power. And in that part of Peru, most of the national grid is hydroelectric. So that's already pretty good ESG, but we will shorten the power line, and also shorten the roads, and shorten the reduce the earthworks, because we've managed to find a way to have a smaller infrastructure area, so a smaller footprint of the whole mine.
Fantastic. And the economics for the project, you're looking to get a bit of a reduced CAPEX there and OPEX as well. How's that stacking up?
That looks very good, actually. I can't give out too many numbers because you have to have the PEA completed for that. But what I can talk about is that throughput in the bigger project, and there's nothing wrong with the bigger project, by the way. You know, the bigger project, you can still stay with that and not need the roaster, so you've mitigated that, and you can do a lot of, you could still implement a lot of what we're doing in the PEA to improve ESG, and you could stay at a bigger project. But we wanted to see if we could get a CAPEX that was more reasonable, and then an expansion through cash flow. So the work that was done previously in 2011 through 14 had a 95,000 ton per day throughput, which produced 110,000 tons of copper a year, or 260 million pounds. And that was a CAPEX of 1.56 billion, which was pretty fair estimate because Hudbay had built Constancia for 1.7 billion in about the same time frame. But now we're looking at starting closer to 40,000 tons per day and getting that CAPEX. We're hoping to get below $1 billion, but I can't really say if we're there yet or not. We don't know. And then we would double it, so get it back up to about 80,000 tons per day through cash flow.
And that lower CAPEX, that lower initial CAPEX, that would widen the options, I guess, for in terms of financing, yeah?
Yeah, the number of people that could build it, whether it's us or we sell it to somebody else. And one of the big pluses is that the Peruvian pension funds love to finance things in their own country where they can be a key part of. And we had earlier discussions with them some years ago. And what I understand is, well, I know is if the CAPEX is bigger, they don't want to be part of it. So the 1.6 billion, they wouldn't necessarily be interested to be part of that. But if it's less than $1 billion, then they could actually do up to half of it.
Excellent.
Through debt and equity, yeah.
So you know, look forward, I guess, to the PA coming out, you say in January, yeah?
Yes.
Excellent. And in the meantime, you've had a little deal recently, your Areca Pi project, copper gold project, also in Peru, down in the south, I believe.
Yeah.
Option that out to Goldfields. Tell us a little bit about that deal.
Yeah. Now, to be clear, we've agreed to terms for an earn-in from them. We haven't signed the definitive agreement, but it's them spending their money to develop it. We've had drilling in the past. We did some drilling. Another group did some drilling. We started looking for copper, but in the end we found some gold also, and it seems like we have two mineralizing events. So we've got some pretty significant gold that wasn't noticed until after the second group had left. And that's what sparked the interest for Goldfields, but I do believe they like copper as well. And so they would be spending $3.5 million to get 51% interest, and then $7 million to get 70%, and making some decent payments to us along the way. And then they would have a route to completing feasibility and leaving us with an NSR. So that way it de-risks it for us, but gives us some income along the way and some nice payout when the NSR kicks in.
Absolutely. As you mentioned, Goldfields, I mean, obviously a gold company primarily, but you said they also like copper. I guess everyone likes copper at the moment.
Exactly.
And you've been up in Canada as well, your Canyon Creek project. That's a new project for you. What have you done there? You had a field study, I believe.
Yes. Now, it had $1 million spent on it before we signed the deal, our earn-in option for 100% of it. And it's had a lot of geochem, some geophysics, and copper moly spread over a very large area, both in stream sediments and in soils. So we got into the field in September and don't have any assay results out back yet, but we were able to identify at least 3 different bodies of porphyries in there. And we think it's a porphyry copper prospect, but we have to prove that. And we just knew there's lots of copper moly, but we're getting closer to believing it's definitely a porphyry target. and the copper moly is spread out over at least 2 by 5 kilometers. And we did get to see visible molybdenum moly and copper in the rock, so that's excellent as well. Now there's a lot of glacial till cover, so the lack of exposure makes it more difficult to see exactly what's there so far. But it's very, very strong potential at this point, and it's in a prolific porphyry belt for BC and not far from the Red Chris mine either. So it's in a great location.
Are there any techniques you can use to probe beneath the glacial till? Is there any sort of imaging techniques or anything like that?
Well, there's lots of things you can do. There's geophysics, and then you can actually do some drilling through the till to just see what's you're getting an outcrop. Of course, you can just diamond drill when you're ready for that. The other thing we've implemented, we're just starting to implement in our gold company on a project, is what they're calling intelligence. I forget exactly the word they're using, but it's actually a great iteration of what we've always done as geologists in exploration, which is compiling all your data. You layer on your geophysics with your geochem and your geology and your structural control and what you know from the neighbors around you and who's found a mine near you. And actually it's called artificial intelligence. And when I first heard about it, as many geologists, fairly skeptical, but they actually can do so many iterations of combining data that they've come up with anomalies that people didn't drill for years on their projects, and then they finally drill it and they come up with something in a part of their property they weren't expecting. And I mean deposits and very significant mineralization. So it's a new technique that we'll definitely be considering for the property. Yeah.
Excellent. And when do you hope to have some results back from assays and start to get up there and be able to start drilling properly?
Well, we should be getting our results before Christmas at this point, and then it would be in the new year when we'd be drilling. Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, you've got lots to look forward to coming up in the new year. The PEA coming out, and hopefully be able to start exploring more deeply into Canyon Creek. But thank you very much, Joanne, for joining us today for this update.
Thank you very much, Leo.